Stay for Cam, Ron, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I told you guys yesterday. For the most part, we're going to do this with our veteran guys. We're going to up and down them. The biggest difference with him, though, as opposed to like a Charles Johnson, he's going to go through the other types of stuff. The only thing we're really trying to maintain, obviously, is the shoulder. We want to make sure we're following the protocol that was set up by our doctors and trainers, and we're just going to follow it. This is, something that's going to be part of his maintenance as we go through the season. So this is, just going to be it.
This is the new normal?
Yes, thank you. That's a good way to put it. I like that.
So more of a rest day than any type
Well,
of
yeah,
soreness.
but again, it's more of a, we're going to have him do all the other stuff that he can do. I mean, he's not going to take a true rest day. Like, he just won't. So this is this is the compromise, the new normal.
But no soreness.
No. No, this is just, again, us going through what, the trainers, the doctors want us to follow.
Those ankle sprains, especially a high ankle sprain, can really be so fickle in terms of delays or anything like that. Is Cole Luke dealing with a little bit of a delay there after being?
Well, yeah, he is. He's dealing with a high ankle, and that's, the lower ankle isn't as bad as the high ankle. This is a high ankle sprain. This is a little bit more concerning right now. So we'll see how he goes.
What do you like about Ladarius Gunter?
I like size. He's long, physical. He's got good ball skills. Plays with his eyes, his hands, good foot movement. He's a guy that started last year, 50, I think, out of the 18 games they had last year. They had him on particular guys in the playoffs. Both the Cowboys and Atlanta. So we think this is a guy that is intriguing to us and could fit the way we do things.
Ron, just to double back one more time, with Cam, was it limited more in terms of throwing, just kind of given?
Yes. I mean, if it were to take the rest, then he wouldn't do anything. But, again, that's him.
How difficult was the decision, not that you necessarily made it, but with Bucker, and any hope to try to get him back on the
Yeah,
field?
it's a tough decision. I mean, he's a young man who we liked, obviously, and we kept him for a reason. And sometimes when you make moves like this at this time, hopefully the timing of it could be very beneficial to us. We'll find out at 4 o'clock.
I think Vernon might be ready to go by.
Yes, he's having a good week. He really has. He's practiced very well. They completely just cut him loose to us. So he's been doing everything he should be doing all the individual, involved in all the game planning stuff. So unless he has a setback tomorrow, he should be ready to roll on Sunday.
And is this more of a reconditioning into football shape week for Kyle?
Well, he's as far as Kyle's concerned, no, I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, he played pretty much where we wanted him to play in terms of, I think he was at 16 reps or 17 reps, and we'll probably increase those for the most part. He did a nice job keeping his conditioning up. So, this week, obviously, we will increase his game reps.
The guys like Peppers and I think Charles and West Horton also played inside a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How's that helping as far as what you're able to do when you got guys in your, like him?
Well,
Sure about.
I think that's very beneficial, obviously, because you have guys that have that. They take some of the extra reps off of people. It helps with KK. It helps with Star. It helps with Kyle. And so, having that kind of ability, I think, is also very beneficial to the player because it gives them more opportunities.
Ron, this is a bit of a philosophical question about when coaches move on from one staff to another. There's a fraternity, obviously. You don't want to hold each other back, but you don't want to lose these guys either. What is that like through the process? Every offseason, when it comes time for somebody checking on a reference, you want to get your friend, you want to be known as a developmental staff, but you're also having to shuffle and fill voids. What's the mentality of that coaching fraternity to help each other out?
Well, I think for the most part, when it's an opportunity to take a big step like this, you don't want to hold anybody back. You don't want to get in their way. You really don't. I mean, I went through it as a young coach coming up, and I was very, very fortunate to have Andy Reid, who was all about that. And so I've tried to be that way as well. It is difficult because for the most part, you don't want to train guys and then have them leave for something that's just equivalent to it. It's not much of a step up. That's always a hard one. But in this type of situation, when you lose a guy like Sean McDermott, I know it's Sean's ultimate. I mean, I know it's what he wanted to become, and he worked very hard at it. He did a great job. I don't want to say reinventing himself, but coming from Philadelphia and having to change some of the things that he did, and really getting a chance to build, the defense here. He came from a situation where he inherited a defense with the Eagles, and here he was able to put his stamp on it and did a very nice job.
He had mentioned to me when he went to Denver after he got let go in Philly, and he went to Denver, and he was not on the plane yet, I don't think, and he called and told you he was
Yep.
great. What goes through your mind when you know he's off somewhere and you want him here?
Boy, I hope he doesn't take it. I think the thing that I had going for me was Sean and I had worked together at one point. Sean was actually my position assistant when I was in Philadelphia at one point. And I know his work ethic. I know who Sean was, who mentored Sean. Jim Johnson was tremendous. He mentored a bunch of us that got our opportunities. Leslie Frazier, Steve Spagnuolo, myself, John Harbaugh, and Sean. And so we've all gotten our opportunities because we were around a very good coach. And I knew that about Sean. I also knew Sean, having been in Andy's system, was going to be very well prepared. Just like he was for me, I knew he's going to do that for Buffalo, and I think you're already starting to see the fruits of that labor. I just know that, Coach Reed does things a specific way, and I think it's a very good way, and I think that's what Sean and I both took away from it in terms of having been on Andy's staff.
As he was beginning this sort of rebuild situation that he's doing in Buffalo right now and making things alike to his own goals, how often did Sean pick your brain and kind of?
Well, I think for the last 6 seasons, that's one of the things that Sean and we always sat down on occasion and talked about things. And Sean took tremendous notes. He really did, and we would talk about things. I gave him a lot of the stuff that I had used when I got my job here, so I've passed some of that on as well. But Sean is his own guy. He's done a terrific job, I think, in some of the things that you're already reading out of Buffalo. Because as you get ready for each team each week, you try to check in and see what's going on. And just the things that I've seen and heard about, I think Sean's doing a great job already.
Ron, he's probably getting the same types of questions this week about you. What do you think he's saying about you this week?
Well, I hope they're all lies. I just hopefully, more so than anything else, Sean, I just know he really appreciated his opportunity here, and I'm very happy for him. I really am.
Advice you gave him?
To be himself. Seriously, to be his own guy. I mean, that's, more so than anything else. Develop your own personality, be your own guy. And I really believe that, that's what you got to do. Take all the things that you've learned, remember all the people you learned from, but you've got to be your own guy. And I think Sean's going to do that. I really do.
Ron, what is the biggest challenge when you make that jump from coordinator to head coach?
I think the biggest thing is you think you have enough references to fall back to when things happen, and quite honestly, I learned this talking with Coach Madden, is that book you have that has all those notes in it, throw that out the window, because everything that comes up is a first-time experience if you've never been a head coach. And I know you guys know, and you guys told me about it. I made mistakes my first 2 years that were, learning situations for me. I still make mistakes, but not as many, and I think I've been able to learn enough going forward. That I'll make more good decisions than I did bad ones, than like I did my first 2. I mean, for my first 2 were difficult because the biggest mistake, and I told Sean this, I told him the biggest mistake I made was I did not have a former head coach on my coaching staff, somebody to fall back to. And that's why, in talking with Mr. Richardson, he suggested, I get a mentor in John Madden because Coach Madden had gone through it and I hadn't. Well, Sean went out and did that. He got Leslie Frazier, and he's his defensive coordinator, and Leslie and I and Sean, we all work together, so I think that's something that's very beneficial to Sean too, is he's got a guy that's been through it. I didn't have that guy, and that was my mistake.
Ron, was last week one of Kurt's best tackling games?
Yes, it was a very good day for Kurt. After one of their initial runs that popped for about 10 yards, I think Kurt was a little tweaked at himself. It wasn't Kurt's responsibility, but Kurt had a chance to make that play, and after that, it's like his game just took off. I mean, it was one of those that that most certainly was game ball worthy. If he had had a big play or two, you most certainly would have given him a big play, a game ball for the way he played. But he played very strong and tackled very well.
He was talking about how that safety position, guys have gotten a little smaller. I mean, there's still some big guys, but there's more versatility required rather than just getting in the box all the time.
Because of what's happening with offenses today, you see a lot more 3 wide receiver sets. You have to have a safety that's got some quickness, some underneath quickness, because for the most part, he's going to end up lining up inside on the extra receiver. And he's got to be able to handle that in certain situations. And Kurt gives us that as well. He's versatile. The only concern you ever run into is whenever you see him and you see Jimmy Graham or somebody like that on the outside, you get a little concerned. That's why it's good to have the linebackers that we have that have the ability to cover.
You're talking about coaching progressions with Sean and his journey that he's on. It was this team in 2013 where it didn't finish the way you wanted to, and you reflected on being on the bus to the airport.
Yep.
And all those things. Do you look? Can you kind of span where, or maybe assess your growth? You just said you have a lot. You still have a lot to learn as a head coach, but can you span you kind of assess your growth from that moment to here?
Well, I think again, if you do go back to 2013 season, going up to Buffalo and losing, in a situation where we had the game firmly in hand, obviously we didn't, and reflecting on some of the decisions I made, I think that really helped me in just realizing that I didn't do the things that I had, said to myself, hey, you've got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. I didn't do those, and what happened was I had second guessed myself instead of just going with my initial instinct. So I think that was one of the things that I've learned is that I've evaluated things, I've looked through things, don't overthink them, just react.
Part of that, Ron, just sort of how you would approach things playing with a lead or
Yes,
that sort of thing.
very much so, Joe. I think part of it is, some people say, oh, as a defensive guy, your tendency is to be a little more conservative. Offensive guys tend to wing it a little bit more. And I think there is some validity to that. But, if you go through the checklist that I go through before every game, you would, I would have stuck to what I believed in and what I thought was right the first time, and I didn't. And that's one thing. So now I go through this checklist, and I try to remind myself, hey, you've thought through this, you've gone through the process, now let's get ready to play.
Coach, with a defense like this that shows such a variety of unique blitzers, how hard is it for a rookie running back to get thrown into pass protection?
I don't think it's difficult because, again, it's all about what the information he's gathering prior to the snap. And I told the story about when Christian came and the only practice he got to have was the last practice at the end of minicamp. And, we were out there and the offense was in the red zone and Coach Wilkes called a zero blitz. And then I looked up and it was Christian was in there and it was really his first snap of it. And he picked up the right guy right off the bat. And so he just thought, wow, he's a sharp kid, he gets it. But the truth of the matter is it's about the information that's being given prior to the snap. That's going to dictate as to whether or not he knows who he's supposed to get. And if we've all gotten the same information and the correct information, any back should be able to pick up the right guy.